Is this is up? Well, that's why. Okay. Sorry, folks. Right, Leo. Oh, that seems to be better. Okay, apologies for that, folks. I would like to, oh my God. The volume is so loud. Brian, is there a way to turn this down? It seems to be, Are we working? No? Is that better? Is that better? Yeah, well, it's certainly better. Yeah. Dumbest question I'm going to ask today. I'd like to, now being 12:02, call to order the special council meeting for purposes of budget speech agenda for March 13th, 2023. To begin, I'd like a motion from the floor for approval of agenda. Councillor Gallant, second. Councillor Adams. The agenda as presented is moved, and we will move right into the land acknowledgement. The land on which we are gathered here today is the traditional and unceded territory of the Abagway Mi'kmaq First Nation. Land recognition is an important step in the process towards reconciliation with all First Nations peoples here in Summerside, Prince Edward Island, Canada, and across the world. We are all treaty people. I'm going to begin today's meeting with a series of short opening remarks. On behalf of all members of the Summerside City Council, bonjour, gwe, welcome. To you, residents and members of the public, community representatives, city staff, in particular our Chief of Police, our Deputy Chief, our Chief of Fire Services, our CAO, Director of Finance, Deputy CEO, other directors and staff, particularly those staff in the Department of Finance who have worked so hard over the past couple of months. Also welcome to members of our media. We're pleased that you are joining us here today for the presentation of the 2023-2024 City of Summerside Budget and Budget Speech. Councillors, as you know, you must present a balanced operating budget each year. This is particularly challenging in times like these where everything simply costs more, and our residents need the high-level quality programming and services we provide to stay that way. You must also present a capital budget that meets our legislated borrowing limits and is fiscally responsible with manageable debt servicing levels. This has also been particularly challenging this year. Decades of accumulating debt has left us exposed to rising interest rates and inflation. Our residents deserve smart, strategic investments that we can afford to pay for and to pay back. In this budget, I'm impressed with your response to these challenges. But more importantly, after watching and listening to your deliberations over the past 2 months, I'm confident you and staff are cognizant of the fact that each year's budget must be viewed as part of a broader whole. Our city will never accomplish great things by intent or suffer tragedies through indifference in one single budget. It is your role and your duty to bring forward budgets that connect together over time to improve the lives of our residents today, but more importantly, in the future. Today, Councillor MacDougall, Chair of Finance Committee, will present our budget that, in my opinion, is measured, caring, and calculated. It balances a thoughtful response to the urgency of need felt by so many in our community today, with the initial groundwork required to articulate and deliver on a long-term vision for our collective future tomorrow. As required by law, at the conclusion of today's special meeting, the 2023-2024 budget will be available for comment and feedback for 14 days. The budget will then be presented to Council for a vote on March 29th. If council passes a motion in favor of adopting the proposed 2023-2024 budget at that time, the budget will be approved and delivered to the provincial government on or before March 31st. Councillor MacDougall will now deliver his budget speech, followed by an opportunity for comment from city councillors, should they so choose. We'll begin the comment period with Deputy Mayor Councillor Snow, and then proceeding to his immediate right, and so on and so forth. So with that, I'd ask you to join me as we turn our attention to the Chair of Finance Committee for the City of Summerside, Councillor Bruce MacDougall.
Just want to make sure this thing is working and not going to blow up. Check. We okay? Everybody hear me? Great. Thank you, Your Worship. Welcome, bonjour, gwe. Good afternoon, Your Worship and fellow councillors, city staff members, members of the public, media, distinguished guests, and those tuning in online. First of all, it gives me great pleasure and an honor to present the first budget of this newly elected council. Preparing our annual capital and operating budgets is a significant task under normal circumstances, but the last number of years have been anything but normal. Not only did we see a continuation of impacts of the pandemic, we saw much global uncertainty in response to the geopolitical events occurring abroad. This uncertainty has disrupted the global markets and has had a significant effect on supply chains and has led to the highest inflation experienced in a generation. We appreciate that 2022 was another tough year for business owners and residents. With this, our key theme of the 2023-24 budget is being responsive to the rapid cost of living increases, the rapid rising of interest rates, while holding the line as we reflect on the long-term needs of our municipality. We want to meet the needs of the municipality without reducing any programs and/or services while continuing to make strategic investments. We must also be forward-thinking in our budget planning while also being fiscally responsible, a budget that builds today for a stronger tomorrow. Thank you to our CAO and directors who continue to demonstrate ability to adapt and respond during the greatest challenges many of us have ever experienced. On behalf of all members of council, I would like to extend our appreciation and gratitude for their guidance and support during this past year and during the preparation of this budget. We are fortunate to have a team of dedicated staff who work tirelessly to ensure our residents and businesses have the programs and services they need and want. To all city staff, thank you for your continuous efforts to ensure that programs and services were maintained as expenses were growing at rates many of us could not foresee. We thank our residents who continue to show adaptability, cooperation, and patience as we address and respond to the impacts of the pandemic. Damage from other significant post-tropical storm event and the disruption in the global markets and resulting financial pressures because of this disruption. The bold response by our central bank, the Bank of Canada, to address the highest inflation rates experienced in a generation has forced us all to face new economic realities. Your Worship, I believe you agree that despite the challenges of the past year, it is encouraging to see the continued commitment, determination, resilience, and ingenuity of our community. This allows our municipality to achieve great things as we continue to operate in a time of difficulty and unpredictability. Now I'd like to extend my sincere appreciation to my colleagues on City Council. Together, we again faced a year of great uncertainty and were able to offer advice, provide governance, and make decisions during this challenging and unsettling time. I believe our leadership helped ease the burden of this past year. Today, we are presenting a balanced budget where we can maintain service levels while we are experiencing significant inflation rates and supply chain difficulties. We understand the long-term needs of the municipality are to attract and retain young working families, build housing to meet the current and future needs in Summerside, and to ensure that municipal services continue to be delivered cost-effectively as needed now and into the future. As noted earlier, this budget has been prepared while holding the line, and at the same time being ready to make strategic investments to meet the needs of our community as opportunities arise. But first, let's reflect on the year just passed. Your Worship, the year 2022 has proven to be a year where most people were impacted by many significant circumstances that could not be anticipated, whether it related to inflationary pressures, rising interest rates, continuing impacts of the pandemic, or severe weather events. The safety of our employees and our residents was and is a top priority. Council and city staff have closely monitored the continued impacts of adapting and maintaining municipal services while again experiencing revenue shortfalls and inflationary and supply pressures. We are extremely proud of our remarkable response to the post-tropical storm Fiona that we experienced in September 2022 and commend our city staff that were instrumental in this response. We are very fortunate to have a dedicated staff and reliable infrastructure and have heard this from our business owners and residents on numerous occasions. Thank you for taking the time to provide this feedback. Municipalities rely heavily on taxation to offer the programs and services that business owners, citizens, and nonprofits organizations rely on. Taxation is the city of Summerside's primary source of revenue. To continue to provide the level of service that users have come to expect, we need to continue building on economic opportunities for our city and the region. We believe that a focus on expanding our non-commercial residential assessment will provide the building blocks necessary for continued growth of our city and stimulate further commercial development. Our latest property tax assessment figures suggested the partnerships that we have entered with the province, Government of Canada, and most importantly, the private sector have continued to address much needed residential developments, which will provide attractive and affordable housing for our city and in turn create demand for commercial development. We are excited to announce that further opportunities will be determined once our newly formed task force on attainable housing has had the ability to meet its mandate of providing recommendations to Mayor and Council on a Summerside housing supply strategy to be incorporated into our municipality's official plan. This task force consists of experts representing a variety of sectors, including urban planning, development, not-for-profit agencies, the construction industry, municipal staff, and members of council. Thanks to the tireless efforts of our mayor and my council colleagues as we contemplated these opportunities. Our leadership on energy efficiency and the utilization of greener sources of energy continues to be progressive and ever evolving. The 80-acre solar farm with solar panels, a battery storage system, and a utility interconnection components, phase 2 of our partnership with Samsung Renewable Energy, is being constructed by Aspen Kemp and Associates, Inc., and is set to be completed during the 2023. It is expected that almost 60% of our energy needs will be produced within city limits by wind and solar power once this project has been completed. We look forward to building our relationships with Aspen Kemp and Associates and Samsung Renewable Energy to further bring added value to our community while continuing to reduce the city's carbon footprint. We see our progressive electric utility as being a significant contributor to the partner with the Government of PEI to achieve their vision to become a first net zero province in Canada, with Summerside leading the way as a first net zero city in Canada. Now let's turn our attention to what 2023-24 will bring to our city. Our core responsibilities as a city is to provide emergency services and infrastructure, that's pipes, sewers, wires, and services, to our residents in a way and at a cost that is efficient and accountable. We also have a responsibility to make our city better for everyone we share it with. We understand that there are some significant challenges in the coming years ahead, and probably some that we cannot see yet. But, Your Worship, we must focus on the opportunities that we can seize in those challenges. We must focus on taking action today, but more importantly, we must plan for our future. We must be clear with our vision and back it up with smart action that delivers tangible results our citizens need and deserve. We must be bold aspirational and for our future as we take on housing, revitalizing our downtown, retaining and attracting young working families and newcomers, supporting our seniors and those in our community who have less, protecting our environment, and being leaders in the energy transition, and creating prosperity for everyone by supporting our local entrepreneurs and change makers. And we have to do it in a fiscally responsible way with greater financial support from other levels of government. All municipalities are faced with the need to balance program and service delivery and growth planning, as this is the key to our future, while also ensuring efficient use of our tax dollars and long-term planning. The following considerations were contemplated during budget preparation and deliberation. Our city continues to grow, which can increase pressure on our service levels. We need to continue to be strategic in our approach and carefully consider opportunities, basically revenue sources versus costs, and the long-term impact on the municipality and potential future impacts of global pressures, i.e. the climate change, global uncertainty, high inflation. This needs to be constantly monitored. Our municipal budget is a policy and planning document that outlines our priorities and focuses on protecting the city's future. The challenge lies in balancing the affordability and competitiveness of providing essential municipal services and planning for future needs. Further to this, we face competing demands for resources and must make decisions that are physically and operationally sustainable. Although the city continues to face budgetary pressures and revenue challenges, we can deliver a balanced budget. The 2023-24 budget we are presenting maintains a focus and a vision on achieving balance and planning for the long-term needs of our municipality. We want to meet the needs of the community without reducing any programs and services while still addressing our fiscal responsibility through responsible planning. This will be demonstrated in our priorities and significant investments being announced in this budget. One of the most important budget decisions made by Council in this is the setting of our municipal property tax rate. I'm pleased to announce there will be no property tax rate changes for 23-24. Making the strategic investments to accommodate the evolving needs of our municipality will require resources to achieve these needs, even while being fiscally responsible. We must recognize the modest increases in the future may be necessary to ensure prudent financial management. Your Worship, Council has the belief that more non-commercial development will mean more families, which will attract more business that will create more jobs. We are focused on delivering thoughtful and smart solutions from all levels of government to attract and, more importantly, retain young families, working families, and newcomers who will thrive in our municipality. Young working families are needed to respond to our labor shortage and to ensure that our seniors have the support they need. The nurses, doctors, plumbers, carpenters, grocery clerks, and so on. They rely on for a better quality of life. The major priorities for our municipality are to grow and diversify our community, attract jobs and talent, debt management, and maintain critical infrastructure. The ability to pay debt servicing costs, principal and interest payments, needs to be a critical factor when making budget decisions as to not place an overwhelming burden on future generations and taxpayers. Put simply, we cannot afford to borrow new money to pay for our old debts. Ideally, we would have sufficient revenues to support the high service standards from our programs and services that our residents deserve. This must be done as sustainably and cost effectively as possible. We believe that the continued significant investments being made by the private sector in our housing market are resulting in new property assessment, which will result in increased revenue even after we factor in the associated costs with servicing these new developments. The trend of positive assessment growth must continue and carry on at greater levels, but we cannot depend on the assumption of an increased revenue just from new development to offset our increased expenses, and must continue to reach our goal to reduce debt servicing costs, meaning the principal and interest costs on our debt. Over the past number of years, we have seen our operating expenses grow at a greater pace than our revenues. We still expect the significant increases seen for fuel and materials to continue, even though the Bank of Canada has put measures in to get inflation under control. At the same time, we are seeing our debt servicing costs increase to levels greater than before. If our debt servicing costs continue to increase as they have in the last few years, this will mean less dollars to fund our programs and services and to make strategic infrastructure investments. It is this Council's belief that the increased debt necessary to complete current projects will generate future economic benefits that will outweigh the costs in years to come. I would like to take a few minutes to discuss our investments in critical infrastructure. Just one second. Municipal infrastructure such as roads, sidewalks, active transportation, buildings, electric, water, and sewer distribution systems are essential to the foundation on which our community is built. A strong municipality needs solid infrastructure to provide the services needed by our residents and businesses. Investments in our assets need to be made with evidence-based decisions while at the same time supporting our existing municipal assets. The city accounts for this infrastructure through a capital improvement plan which forecasts our infrastructure requirement over the next decade. This is a comprehensive plan detailing the scheduling of construction or replacement of roads, sidewalks, ditch infilling, upgrades to our electric, water, and sewer distribution systems, as well as the replacement or acquisition of equipment and other needs. More importantly, it also outlines how the city intends to pay for these needs and how we may leverage the support of other partners to contribute to these projects. To ensure the city continues to have sustainable and effective infrastructure in place, I'm pleased to announce that the city will be committing more than $23 million in capital investments in 2023-24. This capital budget involves making investments in the core programs and services that are the responsibility of a municipality. As noted earlier, it is crucial that we support our existing municipal assets. The following investment in the renewal of these assets is being made during 2023-24. $3.5 million will be invested on our electric system. It is incumbent upon us to ensure the safety, security, and reliability of our energy supply, and it has been anticipated that our electric utility will have approximately $2 million of infrastructure to be replaced and upgraded each year for the next 10 years. $1.4 million to upgrade our water system, some of which is over 100 years old. As we have noted previously, this is a vital project which will enhance our capacity to continuing providing safe and clean drinking water to our residents. Other levels of government will also contribute $1.1 million, bringing the total project cost to $2.5 million. $1.3 million will be spent on our sewer system. Other levels of government will also contribute $1.08 million, bringing the total project cost to $2.38 million. $1.12 million to replace the centrifuge at our wastewater treatment plant. Other levels of government will also contribute $1.12 million, bringing the total project cost to $2.24 million. This project is a carryover from the 22-23 budget. $755,000 will be spent on street resurfacing. $602,000 has been allocated for remediation of storm sewer infrastructure. $500,000 for structural repairs to City Hall. This is a carryover from the 22-23 budget. $385,000 for active transportation. These funds will focus on remediation work to our boardwalk path, the most significant active transportation corridor in the city that is now connected to our new Greenwood Drive path. $271,000 will be spent on replacement of sidewalks. $220,000 has been allocated to replace a loader mount snow blower, and $200,000 for the fire and police departments. I will now highlight two significant new investments being made for 2023-24. $5.5 million for the first phase of the East-West Connector. The City of Summerside is aware of the significant housing needs being experienced now and expected into the future. Currently, there is very limited open areas for developers to build this much-needed housing. The construction of the east-west connector will open significant area up to 300 acres when all completed for needed multi-density residential and commercial development. And it will also help move our residents across the city faster and smarter, whether on foot, bicycle, bus, or car. $3.5 million for the completion of the construction of our 80-acre solar farm, the largest solar farm in Atlantic Canada. Once online, the carbon reductions from the Sunbank solar farm will be the equivalent to removing, not sure how many cars, she's got an X there, but that's fine. But it's going to remove a bunch of cars. Yeah, lots of cars. We are experiencing significant funding from other levels of government through the Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, ICEP, and the city's partnership with Samsung Renewable Energy. Total expected project costs are $65 million, with $48 million committed from other levels of government. This project would not be responsible without our strategic partner, Samsung Renewable Energy, who has been fundamental in bringing this project to fruition and now execution. We're also moving forward with other investments, including $2.45 million for 50% of the city's share to develop the first project at the Summerside Business Commons. We have sourced $3 million from other levels of government, and the total cost is expected to be $7.9 million, with a total of $3.95 million being spent in 2023-24. This investment builds on our success in innovation and entrepreneurship and represents the culmination of many years of efforts in the development of our eco-park. $600,000 has been set aside for our new fire hall. $460,000 has been allocated for downtown infrastructure required in relation to a development in our urban core. $193,500 has been allocated towards our ditch fill program, which is currently undergoing a long-term program review. Your Worship, as noted earlier, we constantly face a balancing act when it comes to investing in our infrastructure, whether it is for a new asset or remediation of an existing asset. We are seeing an increased need for our utility services, which is driving our need to expand our capacity. This is in addition to the high environmental standards that we must follow. Without the continued financial support of federal and provincial governments through the various infrastructure programs, the Canada Community Fund, gas tax, Investing in Canada Infrastructure Program, we would not be able to complete many of these projects. Thank you to our federal and provincial governments for funding these contributions. Now we'll turn to our operating budget. Highlights from our general fund operating budget will include total general revenue, or fund revenue, is $29.8 million, which is made up of the following: $10.7 million, or 36%, in government transfers from other levels of government. $10.4 million, 35% from property taxes. This includes both commercial and non-commercial property taxes. $3.4 million, 11% from wind energy sales. $2.6 million, 9% for recreational and event revenue generated by the community service and cultural departments. $1.5 million, or 5%, government transfers for current year capital expenditures. $480,000, 2%, transfers from the reserve of current year capital. This relates to projects that could not be completed in the 22-23 season. $300,000, or 1%, is raceway revenue, and that's offset by expenses. $260,000, or 1%, relates to miscellaneous revenue streams such as fines, permits, buildings, rentals, and interest. $160,000, or 1%, relates to protective services revenue from fire and police. Majority of this relates to transfers from other levels of government for capital and programs. Total expenses in the general fund of 23-24 are $33.8 million, and this is offset by $4 million in transfers from the utilities to arrive at a net expenses of $29.8 million. The following items make up that amount: $7.2 million for the provision of recreation, green space, and culture; $6.7 million for protective services, which includes police and fire services, $5.2 million for debt servicing costs, principal and interest payments, $4.8 million for capital expenditures funded through current year revenue, that's rather than borrowed with long-term debt. The details of these expenditures were discussed earlier when the capital budget was itemized. $4.1 million for public works and technical services, which includes maintenance of our streets, example, engineering, patching, line painting, street sweeping, snow clearing. Provision of street lighting, street signs, and traffic signage, maintenance of the equipment used to perform these functions, and inspection and planning services. $3.7 million for administration expenses, finance, human resources, Office of the Chief Administrative Officer, and information technology, and City Hall operation and management, maintenance, I'm sorry. $1.2 million for mayor and council. This includes the allocation for community support program grants, which will be discussed further. $0.6 million for economic development activities for attraction of economic growth, and $0.3 million raceway expenses, and that's offset by revenue. $4 million reduction, or minus 13% amount recovered through transfers from the utilities, electric, water, and sewer. Next, I would like to discuss our electric utility. Your worship, as we have mentioned many times, Summerside Electric strives to provide reliable and cost-effective electricity. This has not been without its challenges, of which many are out of our control. We believe it is prudent to continue to match our electric rates with those approved by the Island Regulatory and Appeals Commission for Maritime Electric. I would like to acknowledge the continued support received from our electric utility in the provision of city programs and services, and in its role as an environmental leader in the fight against climate change. The utility's support of city programs and services has enabled us to hold the line on property tax rates since the city was formed in 1995. Most municipalities across this country must routinely increase their property tax rates in response to increasing costs of service. However, the city has chosen not to increase these rates and instead relies on the electric utility to offset these increased costs. The utility provides direct and indirect support of approximately 13% or $4 million, which offsets the cost of city programs and services. Now I'll talk about our water and sewer system. As shown above in the breakdown of our capital budget, we are continuing to make substantial investments in our water and sewer utilities. It has proven to be a significant challenge to keep our 130 kilometers of in-ground pipes up to date, as certain sections of our water system date back to the early 1900s. But this must be balanced against the need to not unduly burden our ratepayers with this additional cost. It is estimated that it will cost us $3 million per year to maintain our water and sewer distribution system over the next 10 years. Central to our belief is to ensure that we have the safest and highest quality drinking water system available, an efficient sewer system for our residents for decades to come. On this, there can be no compromise. In the past, we have taken money from the rainy day reserves to meet operational investment shortfalls. We will not do that again. To meet this goal, our council will be implementing a water and sewer rate increase this year, with an average adjustment of 35 cents a day. We recognize the impact this may have on businesses and residents, but investments must be made on this core necessary infrastructure. It is prudent that we continue to invest in these utilities for the health and safety of our customers and our businesses and industries that depend on safe, high-quality water and sewer systems. Let's talk about our plan to grow our city while living within our means. I spent the last few minutes highlighting some of the things we need to do to keep our infrastructure safe and sound. Our residents enjoy a range of quality municipal services which require significant capital investments initially and require further investments to maintain and upgrade. The biggest challenge of our municipality from a financial perspective is our reliance on borrowing for these investments and resulting debt servicing levels. Even though our long-term debt balance is within legislated limits, it is essential to ensure that this level of long-term debt can be serviced through operations. Put simply, we cannot borrow new money to pay old debts. Over the past number of years, our debt service costs as a percentage of the revenue have been steadily increasing and becoming more than can be managed under current revenue models. Decisions around borrowing for capital expenditures need to be based on sound business practices, defined objectives and clear priorities, with defined revenue sources that can offset operating and debt servicing costs. Our debt service costs should ease once we pay off some of our larger loans and better focus on our limited dollars on clearly defined priorities that will benefit the future of our city. We continue to monitor our debt using appropriate indicators, and it is our intention to set goals to appropriately manage our debt through the development of a debt service and capital reserve policy in the year ahead. Your Worship, to make the community one we can all continue to be proud of, the city has invested much time and effort in developing relationships and partnerships with all sectors of our great city. We are better for the collective efforts of our youth, seniors, young families, newcomers, and the arts and culture community, and we are thankful for their contributions. We continue to celebrate the accomplishments of those who have worked hard to preserve our city's culture and heritage. It is also about remembering those who have gone before us in service to our country, who keep us safe each and every day. We must remember where we come from to help set a pathway for success for where we will go next. Residents in the business community also want more emphasis on economic development and growth. The needs of our business community are changing. There are also more aligning with the needs of our community in general. Our business community wants better access to healthcare services. More people respond to our labor shortage today and create jobs for tomorrow, more attainable housing for workers, and more support for young families so that we have the workforce to deliver the services and product our seniors need to maintain their quality of life in the year ahead. We will continue to focus our efforts on attracting leading-edge organizations, especially to our downtown and in the green technology sector. In addition, we are always evaluating our current service offerings to ensure that they meet the needs of our community. While we are blessed with the leading-edge thinking and approaches in our city, it is still a constant challenge to attract and develop new lines of business to diversify our economy. While no government can answer to all the wants of all the people, we do reach out to the community for help towards that goal. We will not put one group against another. We will promote openness and greater transparency and ensure that we engage in meaningful dialogue with residents as we work to implement our goals. We know our community has so much to offer, and we know that we will only succeed if we work together. The city cannot do it alone, and indeed, every year community groups set up to support our citizens. With that in mind, I'd like to turn our attention to the many volunteers and organizations who provide the support. We all depend and appreciate the dedication, commitment, and perseverance of the dozens of not-for-profit organizations who deliver critical programs and important services to our local community and residents that may otherwise not be available. To ensure the most fair and equitable distribution of resources and support, the city is guided by policy, criteria, and best practice. A significant part of the city's budget is allocated to our nonprofit organizations through our community support program. Council has made a commitment to fund these groups at a total budget amount of $522,350, which is a 10% increase over the 22-23 budget. This increase is mainly due to funding that will be provided to nonprofit organizations whose sole purpose is to service the more vulnerable population in our municipality, and will be allocated to those organizations to allow them to help struggling individuals manage with current inflationary pressures. In addition to the $522,350, the city will be paying the final installment of our sponsorship for the very successful 2023 Canada Games, which is $186,250. It should be noted that in addition to the financial support the city provides to outside groups, an additional $250,000 of in-kind services are provided to many of these groups to enable them to deliver high-quality services and programming to the broader community. Furthermore, Your Worship and Council, we believe strongly in keeping our recreational programs and services accessible and affordable to the community and the region. We are a leader in this area, and we have no intention of slowing down. We have set a benchmark in Atlantic Canada as one of the only municipalities to provide no-cost usage of outdoor fields and the lighting of those fields. Additionally, our city boasts one of the longest waterfront boardwalks, a vast park and trail system, not to mention the state-of-the-art credit union place and multi-purpose dome. Our Community Services Department continues to offer one of the most diverse programming offerings in the province, all designed for social and physical well-being for residents of all ages, from all backgrounds, cultures, and of all means. For our community to continue to receive these health and wellness benefits, cost recovery becomes a key focal point for city staff. Cost recovery benchmarks in municipalities across the country range from 35 to 55%. The city's recreation revenues used to cover the costs for the community services is approximately 35%. Past community budget surveys indicated that most citizens do favor more emphasis on a user-pay system than a general tax rate increase, while keeping programs affordable to the residents. Therefore, in keeping with past years and to ensure that we can keep pace with the cost to provide these services, I'm announcing a 5% adjustment in fees for users of the arena and 3% adjustment for users of the pool at Credit Union Place. I would like to finish my speech with a short summary. We continue to feel it is very important to recognize the commitments and contributions being made by our residents, businesses, and nonprofit organizations as we share in making Summerside a great community. Your Worship and Council, as mentioned earlier, the development of a municipal budget is a challenging effort with many competing priorities. Our budget allocates resources across the city departments to fund the services and infrastructure required to maintain our city. We can deliver a balanced budget during these difficult and uncertain times due to growth in our city and funding from other levels of government. We continue to assess our progress in enhancing transparency and accountability on a regular basis, ensuring that council colleagues have good information on which to base our decisions, and to ensure our residents know the basis for these decisions. I look forward to continuing to work with all colleagues on council as we build upon the accomplishments of previous councils, set a foundation for continued success, and measure that success. While it is a challenging time, it is also a time for us to focus on sustainability while building for our future. I believe that the initiatives we've highlighted today will do both. I want to take one last opportunity to express my sincere appreciation to the management and staff of the city for the effective work they do in support of transparency, accountability, public engagement for all the greater good of our city and the people we serve. Residents of Summerside, this is your budget for 2023-24. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Bruce, for a great budget presentation. I'd just like to start by echoing Mayor Kutcher's remarks regarding how difficult this budget was with all the other pressures we're seeing lately. In my remarks, I'm purposely going to leave out my personal thoughts on the budget, just in hopes that residents do feel comfortable over the next couple of weeks to reach out and express their opinions on it. I think that's an important part. If I give my personal opinions, then somebody might not be as comfortable. So I'm just going to leave my personal opinions out and really encourage residents to reach out, give me their thoughts and opinions on it as we get ready to vote on it. I do feel as a council, though, we are embarking on some significant projects and investments within the city that will see many positives for years to come. We have several ad hoc committees either formed or forming that are going to focus on some priorities and growth within our city. And I think through those committees and the leadership on those committees, I think we'll see some much positives moving forward. I'd really like to thank management and staff for all their hard work. They are the ones that make the city a great place to live, work, and raise a family. Lastly, I just want to thank Mayor Kutcher and my fellow councillors for all their hard work, not only on this budget, but every day. We do have some really busy stretches and put in a lot of hours and hard work for the residents, and I think that's important for the growth of our city. So thank you to everybody involved.
Okay. I guess I'm old school. I'm in the habit of standing. I'd like to compliment Councillor Bruce on the delivery of the budget speech on behalf of the city and Mayor and Council. And I guess, you know, we're in inflationary times, so it's pretty difficult to have everything that we all probably talked and discussed as a team. But I think that the programs and services being maintained, that's very, very important to our residents. I really picked up on the comment that we cannot borrow new money to pay for old debts. And because we are dealing with inflationary methods and because we are dealing with a lot of needs for our capital projects and all of the wants and wish list, we just cannot deliver everything. But I do feel that it's a very fair budget, and in discussing the importance of the task force on attainable housing, that was some of the things that we really talked about as a council. And if we are going to attract new families, support our seniors, homelessness, attainable and affordable rent, it's very, very important that we are very strategic in those decisions. As well as I'm very pleased about the revitalization of working towards the downtown core, because we certainly need people. We need to attract economic development in those areas, and also the importance of working with the heritage assets that we already have within the community to really build it stronger. Very pleased that there's no property taxes. I think, you know, when you have so much going out every month, every family feels that. So we're very pleased about that. And my one point on the underground capital project work, I know there's an increase with water and sewer, but as Councillor Bruce has indicated, to have very safe water, a very good sewage system, we need those foundational projects to take care of everything. So overall, I think we have delivered a budget that is strategic. We don't have all of the wants that we would like to see, but we also have a number of very important, significant, important departments that we need to take care of foundationally. And finally, I would just like to thank Mayor Kutcher, my fellow councillors, for all of the effort and the teamwork of putting this together, and of course our directors for being here. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm sure everybody will be in agreement that this wasn't an easy budget to go through, because the city is operating pretty much the same as we all in our households are, and there's no more money coming in than is going out these days. So I think we all sort of had that frame of mind when we went through our budgets, and I appreciate that directors had the foresight to cut some things that they probably would have loved to have had for their departments, but they even had cuts made before it came to us, so that made it a lot easier for sure. I do know that there's many things that we would love to see, love to have many new projects on the go. And I did notice that a lot of the directors had decided that they were going to take care of what we currently have, keep those things up to date rather than keep purchasing new, like you had said, Norma. So that's appreciated for sure. And I know it's not easy to make do with what you have sometimes, but I think we're sort of all in a make do frame of mind at this point while we're coming off a couple hard years for everybody. And the 35 cents a day increase in the water and sewer, and just so everybody knows, I think we pounded that down as low as it could possibly go, and there were many versions of what we could and couldn't do, and thank you to Kristen and Matt for that, because I know it's not easy to come in here and bring that to us, but you have a lot of options for us to pick from and a lot of background work done whenever you come in, and that makes it a lot easier. You don't come in with just a this or that. You usually come in with a few and scenarios, and that makes it a lot easier for us to try and make decisions. And all directors, it's really appreciated that we all are sort of on the same path going forward for the next few years, for sure. Personally, the no property tax adjustment, that's a good news item for some people. And the 5.5 million for the east-west connector is huge. In addition to, the traffic, keeping the traffic moving, it's going to open up so much development for our city. And we constantly are told by our staff that we have people that want to develop, and there's this developable land right in the middle of our city and we have no access to it, so this will hopefully move that right along. So I want to thank everybody, and and Kristen, I did want to ask, just so, is this going to be available online for people to view? Okay. Perfect. So it's just so anybody watching knows it's available online. And can they pick up a hard copy here as well? Perfect. Okay. So if there's anybody who wants it, it'll be online, or pick up a hard copy, and then you can reach out to us and we'll get the answers out of Kristen for sure. Thank you.
I too would just like to thank city staff for all their hard work, and mayor and council. It's certainly presented a lot of difficult challenges to come up with this budget, and I wish I'd have been around for a little more of it, but things being what they are. I want to thank Bruce for all his Councillor Bruce for all his hard work, and I think most people will understand the financial situation and how we come up with most of this stuff. So, like I say, I think it's somewhat important that we decrease our debt and move on from that, so we can have more money to do more things with down the road. So anyway, just want to thank everybody, and hopefully it all works out.
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, as a newly elected councillor, this budget was definitely a learning experience. We all collaborated to bring in a balanced budget and to live within our means. And I would like to thank Councillor MacDougall for bringing in the finance budget, and Mayor Kutcher and my colleagues for doing a great job, and as well as staff. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, and thank you, Your Worship, and everyone. I think there is a misconception, at least on social media anyway, that when council goes through these budget deliberations, it's just us sitting around a room and kind of whittling away at a pot worth millions of dollars, and with no real rhyme or reason as to what funds get allocated to what departments or what projects. But none of us, I don't think anyway are experts when it comes to the finances of a municipality. Of course, we have our inputs and our priorities, but and those are based on the wants and the needs of our residents. But at the end of the day, we need to rely on the experience and the knowledge and the professionalism and the recommendations of our staff in order to properly allocate all of the items and programs and operations and equipment that were just mentioned in Councillor MacDougall's presentation. Staff are the ones tasked with evaluating their departments and their staff requests, as well as looking ahead and anticipating what's needed in the city in terms of infrastructure and equipment and those things I just mentioned. They need to do this with very limited funds. And I think in every department, as Councillor Adams just mentioned, I think things are likely slashed long before they even make it to council. So that's some tough decisions that staff have to make before we even hear of any of them. I just think it's important to recognize that and assure people that, like I said, we're not here pulling names and numbers out of a hat. We're relying on city staff and management to help us steer the ship. And for me, over the last 4 years, our staff have proved to me time and time again that we're in good hands. So just want to thank our CAO and our directors, their managers and their staff, particularly Kristen and Matt, who, when you were giving your presentations over the last month or so, just made everything really clear and easy to follow, which would have been really difficult without your folks' input. So anyway, at the end of the day, it is council's decision to approve these recommendations or not to. There were many situations that were more difficult than others when it came to collectively deciding how to spend or not the residents, the taxpayers' money. I think I can speak for everyone around these chambers when I say that we all truly feel that the most responsible long-term effects were top of mind when we were discussing this 2023-24 budget. And as I've mentioned in every one of the last 4 budgets I've been a part of helping to shape, I'm very proud with the end result that we came up with. I feel like the term times are tough has been kind of used for many years, but over the last couple of years especially, these words seem to have new meaning. We made some very difficult decisions that some folks may simply not agree with or agree with, but that's the task that we're here and elected to do. So, and I do believe that looking forward into the next couple of years, that some of these responsible decisions we made this year will have some lasting effects that we intended to. So, just thank you to my colleagues here, and thank you to Councillor McColman as well, who did the presentations for the last 4 years, and as your capacity as Chair of Finance, and thank you to Councillor MacDougall, the new Chair of Finance, and yeah, thank you to your worship and staff and management and everyone. I look forward to another year and 3 more budgets, so thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship, and thank you, everyone, for those kind comments. Every year we do a budget, and I've been around for a few of them. Lots of times there's blood on the floor when we walk out of here by the time, but you know what? I think everybody that's gone through the last 2 or 3 years realized that, you know, when we come into the room this last time, that things are not like they used to be. Everything was up, you know, rates, everything. And it was a different conversation around the table. I believe we came to the best results we can. I fought myself by agreeing to the 35 cents on the water and sewer, but you know what? I'd ask anybody to go into any store and ask what I can buy for 35 cents. And there's very little, I think, but anyway, you know, it is 35 cents. It is something that some people will see as a burden, but we have clean, safe water and sewer here, and second to none, so we thank. I'd like to take the opportunity to thank our CAO, Gordon, Kristen, Matt, wherever he's hiding, and there he is, and all the staff of the finance department. You know, budgets just don't happen. They're developed over a long term, and we're still not done yet. We have the 14 days, and also then we have our year end, which is it's a big task for that department, and they're very busy. And with the budget presented here today, I think it was as fair as budget as we can get, but it really highlights the urge for whoever's elected in this next provincial government. We need to sit down and have the revenue sharing program finalized. It's been kicked down the road for 2 years, and we need to get back so that municipalities can have long-term dependable funding to ensure that their citizens are provided the necessities that they need. So with that, again, I'd like to thank everybody, and thank you for the directors for being here, and everyone that's come out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor MacDougall. Job well done today. Of course, thank you to Council for all of your thoughtful deliberations, your optimism, your ability to challenge each other throughout the course of the development of this budget, to ask the right questions, and to demand and look for the right answers. This is my first budget process. I will be very blunt here and say I am much more confident than I was in the past with respect to the quality of the work that happens here. It was insightful for me to sit with you and to listen to you, and to see the value that you each individually brought to those discussions. And as Councillor Drawn mentioned, really in coordination with the city staff, and certainly city staff put in all the front end hard work to make it easier for council to make difficult decisions. So it's been a positive experience. There are challenges, but there is some optimism in here as well, and some real positive things that I think will create a real positive change for people in our community. So thank you very much, as well thanks to all the members of the public for joining us and instilling your confidence in this group to make choices ultimately on behalf of all citizens here in Summerside, to improve everyone's life here. So with that, that's the end of my remarks, and I would call for a motion to adjourn today's meeting. Moved by Councillor MacDougall, second Councillor McColman. Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody.